today we have exercise number 4. We will look at a method which is called the division of unit method, showing objects of the same size but equal distances apart. So when you want to draw an object, and in perspective of course, 1 point or 2 point perspective, and then you want to draw a next object, it doesn't matter what size the first object is, just an object, and I want the second object in perspective to be of the same size, basically equal distances apart. So I don't know the distance in measurements, but I want to draw 2, 3, 4, 5 objects next to each other, and to be sure that they're equal distances apart. So how to do that? Well, today we will use only a 1 point perspective. Next class we will apply this method to 2 point perspective, okay? So, I draw here a few things and I will explain them. So this is not in perspective, this is just to show the method. For example, if we have just a line, okay, a line, it doesn't have to be anything, a line, okay? And I have a second line, okay? Now, I want to draw the third line, the fourth line, the fifth line, equal distances apart. When it's not in perspective like this, it's very easy. These distances, do you see they're equal? Because this is not in perspective. But if I put it in perspective, these distances, as it goes towards the vanishing point, they will become more smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? So, but this is just to explain the method, then we will apply this to the perspective, okay? So, let's say, for example, we have a line here and a line here. Now, we need to always, to do this method correctly, whatever we start with, okay, whatever this size is, we take the middle of it, the middle, okay, and we draw a line. Now, this is not in perspective. Later I will apply it and you will see. Now, this line, okay, in the middle. After that, from this point, from the top corner, okay, we will take a line that goes through here and down. Where it will touch this line, okay, this is the next object, and of course if it's done with ruler and accurately, these distances should be equal. Now the next one, if I want to draw another, we will do the same. Okay, it should be here. These are just lines, and so on. Now when this is in perspective, you don't know what is this distance. And these distances in perspective will become smaller and smaller and smaller, but you are sure that whatever is started with, they are continuing in a correct way. Now let's see another object that we have. For example, square. We have here a line, we have square, we have here a rectangle, okay? So let me just draw a square so you can see. What if we have a square? Again, I will put here a line going. And here a line. So, this has to be. Now, again, we have to select the middle of this line, okay? And we put this line here. Now, to know where the next square of this particular size is going to be located, again, from this corner through this. Okay, it's showing here, okay. So here is the next square of the same size, okay? Of course, if it's accurately drawn, it will be more clear. Now, if I draw a third one, from here through here, and again, this is the next. Now, if I don't want all the squares later in perspective, I can always delete what I don't want. For example, I just want the first and the third. This one can be always deleted. But at least I know that the spaces are equal, what I have chosen. Now, let us put it in perspective. 1 point perspective only today. So, let us draw lines. Start with the line, then we will draw a square. Okay. From where? Here, let's start here. For example, I will put here a line. My first line. Now, I will take from here to the vanishing point. This is it straight. The vanishing point. Okay. Now, because it's a line, I need to select two lines, okay? So, if, depending on what distance I will select here, all the others will be of the same, okay? Repetition. So, if I select the next line to be here, okay? Now, I want to know, okay, where is going to be the third, the fourth, and so on. So, we will take from here to here the midpoint, and we will go to the vanishing point. Then, from this point through this point, okay, here is the next one. Again, so we can draw as many as we want. This is very important method, very important. We will apply it to many things later. But this is the basics today. The very basics just to understand it. Later we will apply it to other things. Now let me draw a log so you can see what happens in perspective. So if you notice what happened in here, as we go to the vanishing point, towards the vanishing point, they become smaller and smaller and smaller. But in reality, they are the distance that I've chosen. Now, if you want to do this freehand, you can, but it will not be as accurate when applying such a method. So we don't know the measurements, we don't know, but at least the progression is in a correct way. So not suddenly, for example, for us to put too much here space or too little space here. So it is slowly, progressively going towards the vanishing points and the distances getting smaller and smaller in a correct way. Now, if I choose in the beginning here a bigger space, then all of them will look different. So let us do that, for example. So now, I will take again to the vanishing point this line. So now I will choose a bigger space, like for example here. Here I will put the first one I put close to the object. Now I'll put it here. Now all of the others will be based on that. How? We take from the middle of this line to the vanishing point. Okay. Now from here through here. From this point through this point. And so on. Okay? So all these distances are based on what I choose in the beginning, but progressively getting smaller. Now this, it doesn't have to be a line. It could be, for example, you can imagine this is, for example, a street light here. Okay, imagine street light, and this is here a street or something. You can draw things like that, and using this method, whatever you draw, it can be correctly, progressively. Okay. Now, let us see what will happen when we have a square, for example. I will not draw the rectangle, it's the same idea. Whether something long or high or short, I will just draw as example the square. So let us draw a square here. Now, this one I will take to the vanishing point. Remember, this is a square, a 2D square, not a cube, not, okay? Don't confuse. So you draw the first edge, and then you decide where basically to stop. So this is the square in 1-point perspective. Now, let me draw another square here. This is standing, okay? I will draw one that is laying down. Just as an example. Because some of you last time, you didn't even draw the squares correct. Okay? So be careful. This is a square, but it's laying down. This is standing, okay? I will not draw here. You can draw standing from the top. It doesn't matter, okay? Very important, these lines to be parallel to each other and parallel to the paper. Now, these lines are parallel here because the square is standing, okay? Be careful. Now, we will apply this method on both of them. So, we take the midpoint of this line, we go to the vanishing point, and what do we do next? We want to know where is the next square of this size located here. Should I stop here? Should I stop here? Where? Okay? So this method helps. From this point, through this point, okay, it touches this line in here, so we will stop here. Now, I will not draw the square now, because maybe I don't want it. Maybe I want this square, not this square. Maybe I don't want the whole line, okay? So let me draw the locations, and then we will see what we need. From this point through this point. The next one located here. From this point through this point. And so on, okay? Now, if I want the second square, I can just draw the line here, continue. Now, this square, I don't want it. I don't need to draw it. I will just draw this one. But I know that this space is correct according to what I started. It's the same square size going in perspective. But I can choose which ones I want, which ones I don't want. If I want more, very easy. There is this point and this point again. Okay, so the next one located here. And so on. They are progressively getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I can at any moment choose which ones I want to keep and which ones I don't want to keep. If I want to keep the entire row, then I draw the entire row. All of the squares are present, and they're getting smaller and smaller. Now, how to do it with this? When it's laying down, basically. The same thing. We have here this line, the first line. We choose the midpoint. We go to the vanishing point. Then, from this corner through this corner, from this corner through this point, it touched the line here, so this is the location of the next one of these sides. And again, from this corner through this point, the next one will be located here. And again, we can draw another from here through here. So now, if I want them all, I will just draw the entire line. For example, here. So, the same square, the same like what I started with. They are at equal distances apart, and as you can see, they get smaller and smaller as we go to the vanishing point. Now, if I want the first square, but I don't want the second square, but I need this square to be at the equal distance, to be still correct. So I need to apply this method, because if I do it just freehand, I could easily make a mistake. Now, for example, I want it like this, but I'm sure that the distances are correct. Great. Now, now let's apply it to some very, very simple object that we will draw. What can we draw now? Okay, let me delete this line, put it a little bit more up. I'll put the vanishing point here, just to have more space. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw a simple object with the application of this method. So, it could be, for example, let's say a furniture piece, a very simple one, a bed, something like that, very simple. And we can start, for example, with the legs. And if you notice, any furniture piece have legs, most of them. So we have this leg, the same like that leg, the same like this leg, but they are certain distances apart. So if I want to draw, correct the proportion, I mean. So I have to use this method to be sure that the proportions are correct. We don't know the measurements, but the proportions, so the distances. So this leg, where is it located according to this size? This leg, where is it located? This distance is shorter than this distance, for example. But if I don't use the division method, it's very easy to make it either too long or too short. So it depends on what I'm looking for. But let's see how we can apply. So we will take the vanishing point. Yes, Now, I decide how much the thickness of this is, because this is just a 2D object in the 3D. So I decide the thickness of it. For example, like this. Now, I want this object to be located here, somewhere. I don't know, here or here somewhere. But I need the distances to know how many of these legs come in here, so that later I can decide the other side of the object, okay? So I need to divide this. I need to divide it until the place I want it to be located. And I don't know the size of it. This object, the size of it here, I don't know. Well, it's going to be smaller, but I don't know how much. So we need to use this method. It's a fast method, once you understand it. And as I said, it gives you the correct size and correct location. So we will take what? The midpoint of whatever you choose, okay? And we take it to the vanishing point. Now, from the first point here, from the first stage through this point, we draw a line. Of course, this needs to be accurate to really work. Let me see. So, from the first point through this point. So, the next one located here. Now, maybe I don't need this, so I will not continue it. Let us continue. The third, from here to here, the third is located here. So I quickly will divide this into many, and then I will decide where I want to stop. So, what am I doing? I'm dividing this object, whatever I've chosen here. This should be the same size, just going in perspective, getting smaller. Now, if I say, okay, how many did I put here? 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the fifth. Okay, I will choose this one here, the fifth, as the end. So all of these, I don't need them, but I had to find their location. So I find this, the size of this, and basically the location of this. So this one I want, this one I will draw. So I will finish it here. It's a little bit of accuracy. Okay. And this parallel and this parallel. Okay. Now, now, if you do this correctly with the ruler and carefully, this object should be smaller than this one, okay? In all cases. So on the board it's not very clear because it's freehand. So now I'm sure that this object and this object are the same in perspective, and they have 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 4 objects here. 1, 2, 3, 4 distances, if you see. First distance, second, third, fourth, okay? In between. So if we imagine this as a, for example, anything, a table. So this leg, 1, 2, 3, 4 distances, then is the leg I want, okay? So you can make it 10, 20 distances, whatever you need it to be. Now this is very helpful, so that you can imagine the proportion of the object. Now, okay, great. Now what if I want to draw this side here? This side here, because it's in 1 point perspective, it's going to be a parallel here. The more fun part is later when we draw in 2 point perspective, but this is in 1 point. So in 1 point perspective, because this side is parallel to us, well, we don't need to divide the method because it is in a row. So all of them will be, the same distances apart. So you take this, here is the next one located, then from here, this is the next one. So we don't have any side that goes to the vanishing point, only that becomes smaller. This one, no, because it's in front of us. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Depends on how many I want. Okay, let's say how many distance? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I want my object at number 9, okay? So here I want it located, then, so I left here more than here, okay? So I left here more distances than I left here, because I want this side to be longer in reality than this side. So I can control what I'm drawing, basically. So from here to the vanishing point, okay, I will just quickly have the vanishing point. Now, if we need to find, okay, where is the location of this object but here? Now, since we already found it here, you don't need to take the midpoint of this and start dividing here again and again and again. No need, because we already found it, so we can just take a line from here. Accuracy here, okay. So we can take a line from here. So, and a line from here. So it intersects this line here, for example, and here. So here's the location. Then we put up. We put this up. And this one needs to be parallel, okay? And this one parallel, this down. It's parallel to each other, and this down. Now it doesn't look very accurate because, as I said, it's freehand. But just to understand the method, once you find one side and the other is located in the same side, you just take the line from here. See where it will intersect this line, in this point. This from here, where it will intersect this line going to the vanishing point, wherever it will intersect, as a straight, and then you put up. And then all of these are parallel to each other because this is 1 point perspective, okay? So you can have the base on something that you can draw now on top. So you can draw other things on top. Let's say, okay, we want to draw something here on top. This one we will take to the vanishing point. To the vanishing point. From here up, here is the end. Just so you don't see the other objects, okay? Here. And this will be all hidden here inside. Something very, very simple, you know. And now you can add other objects and so on. But need to form the correct base on which to start building. And once you have these points here, these divisions, you know, you can leave them until the end because they can be useful for other things. Let's say, for example, okay, now I have this surface here on the top. I need to know the middle of it. Where is it located? The middle of this surface. Now we already know how to do it. We can I can put diagonal here, and find the midpoint. That's one way. Another way is to use these. So how many do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So here, this line, if I put it up from number 2, because this is the middle, okay? So from number 2, if I put this line up and then go this way, this is the middle of this surface. From here, also I can do the same. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. At number 4, I can put this line up here and then take it to the vanishing point. And now I have the mid surface. So you can use these divisions to find the locations of other objects and build. Okay, let's say I don't only want the middle, I want here also another line. So any of these objects I can take. I can take from here up this line, find the location of this line. If I want to add, for example, here some detail, let's say, for example, let's go to the vanishing point, this is the vanishing point. So, you can find other details and build upon them and find their locations from these divisions down here. And you know for sure that what you do is in the correct location. And later, if you don't need them anymore, we can always take this and delete, you know, to finalize your object. So it's, you know, it's very, very simple object. So I expect you to experiment first with simple stuff and then to, you know, to add a little bit more detail and a little bit more complication to them. So, now, let's delete this picture here. Your homework, 3 sheets. The first one, you will draw lines, okay? Lines in 1 point perspective, okay? Remember, we're dealing with 1 point perspective now. Then another sheet, squares. The same what we draw, squares. Not only 2, 3 squares, try 4 squares, 5 squares, different sizes, just to experiment, laying down, standing up, from here, from the above the horizon line. So try several versions to train yourself applying this method, okay, the division. And another sheet, rectangles, so elongated objects. So 2D surfaces, okay, only this time. There is no, I didn't give you to draw any real objects, or just to understand the application of this division method on lines, squares, rectangles, okay, this time. And then we will move on to other stuff. Okay? Any questions about this? No. Okay, so what remains is for you to start drawing, to actually train yourself. Then it will become more clear. And I have here some examples also, useful ones. me close the video.